Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. This is Lisa Hunters with Certification Partners, and we are here today for our webinar, User Interface Designer. Todd, would you like to go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. We appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. We're excited for you all to join us today as we talk about a new certification program from Certification Partners, a new CIW program. It will be User Interface Designer. We're excited about this. It's been a long time coming, and we're excited to share it with you. I'm the Vice President of Operations and Product Development, responsible for curriculum and certification development with Certification Partners, and I have Dr. Zipporah Katz with us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Vice President of Educational Programs, and what that really means is I work hand in glove with Todd to make sure that our products meet the highest of educational standards, that our pedagogy and our andragogy are solid, and that everything that we do is geared to be student-centered so that once a course is completed, not only have we learned the material, but we are also confident within our own selves and know that we've truly mastered everything.
Thank you, Zipporah, and she keeps me in line, so it's
a tall task.
It is. Let's go ahead and just quickly go through our agenda. We've got a number of things. We're going to talk a little bit more about who Certification Partners and CIW are or is. We're going to talk about the nature of the web, a little bit more about why user interface design is important. I'm going to explain a little bit more about the CIW approach and then move right into the core topics, the curriculum, the main things that we cover in this course, and then show you some of the resources that we have available as you go through this experience. And then lastly, we'll talk about a little positioning where this course falls in line with the other CIW programs and some of the job skills progressions that we have. So as we dive into this, we've already introduced ourselves, but again, I'm Todd Hopkins. I have been working with the CIW program for a really long time, since about 2001, in curriculum development and in the certification space. And Zipporah has been with us.
I've been with the company as an employee for about 2 years now, but I've held CIW certification for about 16 years.
So we've been around CIW for quite a while.
Yes, we have.
Both of us. And we're excited for these new programs that will be coming out this year. A little bit more about CIW and why CIW is important. First of all, we are a skills-based technology and education standard. We take a little bit different approach to education, to training, and to the internet technologies than many organizations do. We have I like to say we have two focuses. One is we would like you to pass the certification exam and become certified in these areas, but more importantly to me, as we're looking at the curriculum side, is I want everyone that goes through the program and obtains a certification to be able to perform properly on the job, to be able to take care of those problem-solving opportunities that you will have as you become employed and as you get out there in the workspace, to be able to shine not only for yourself but for our program. And so those are the two main goals that we have in our program. We talk a lot about internet technologies, SEO, and a variety of other technologies in that space. One of the key aspects to how we do this is we focus on being vendor neutral. That does not mean we are completely vendor absent. What it means is we profile many of the technologies that are out there, sometimes many of the applications that are out there, so that you can see a variety of ways of getting through producing the website and providing the end product that your employer or your customer might need. And so we take that vendor neutral approach. This helps us provide sound theory and methodology in how you go about these various technologies and how you implement them. If we were to be on a vendor treadmill every time certain application providers come out with a new version, then you've got to relearn everything again. With the way that we approach it, you understand the theory and methodology beneath the technology, and it doesn't matter. Your learning curve then on an application becomes much shorter because you know where you want to go and what you want to accomplish, and then it's just a matter of which menu button do I click on to accomplish those things. So that's an important aspect of this. We also want you to be on a lifelong learning path, not an application learning path, but more of learning the technology and becoming more competent in these. And we focus all of our certification programs on job role requirements, so very, very much competency-based. Currently, there's over 80,000 individuals that have received, that have earned the CIW certifications. Many of those have earned more than one, and we're excited about that. To show you a little bit about where CIW can fit in your career path and in your direction and focus in going from education to that career and moving through that. We start with the foundations, where we teach you a broad understanding of internet technologies. Start teaching you from the importance of managing your own personal information, how you use that in business, teaching you the beginnings of HTML5 and CSS with our site development associate, and ending with the more of the technical aspects of it, the geek parts of it, with teaching you DNS and what IP and the importance of an IP address and all of those types of things. So we provide that broad understanding. As you move through those programs and become more familiar with the technologies, becoming more of a producer, then you move into our new web and mobile design series, which is part of what we're talking about today. That program contains 7 certification items in it. First is the Advanced HTML5 and CSS3 Specialist. That was released a little while ago and really expands the design aspects and the coding and the things that you need to know there. The second course in that series is the User Interface Designer course and certification, which we're talking about today. We will also have a data analyst program, a social media strategist, multimedia specialist, a mobile application designer, which will introduce you into how to create various apps on different platforms, and then an e-commerce portion of it to round out that series to really bring the technologies together. And you're going to build a website. How do we make money at this, and how do we use that in business? All of these will have, because they have a specific focus, you can mix and match and put several of these together to get to the job position, the career position that you're really looking for. Am I more interested in moving to being more of a web designer? There's certain courses that would be more appropriate for that. If I'm just really focused on being in multimedia, there's certain ways that we can go there. If you're looking into more of a marketing, digital marketing, there's a number of courses that would help you move to that pathway. But all of our programs help us move to a specific career opportunity, and as we expand these out, there will be additional opportunities for programs. So that's a little bit about where CIW certifications can help you as you move forward into your career. We'll now have Zipporah talk to us a little bit more about the web, about the nature of it.
Okay, well, thanks, Todd. When I started working in web technologies, it was exciting if you could bold your font, if you could turn the color to red, if you could center something. And over the course of the last, 15, 20 years, we've been able to suddenly move from just text on a page to adding an image, creating tables. We went through a period where we used multiple pages on one page called frames. And now, of course, the explosion of multimedia and streaming media. So web technology is consistently evolving, and along with the evolution of the technology, the evolution of the roles for the people involved with it have changed. We have become much more collaboratively based, because in today's web world, it would be the very, very rare person that could perform all of the tasks necessary to make a website as fully featured and engaging as it could be. So now we stress the ability to work in a collaborative environment, whether that's collaborating around a conference table or collaborating through open videos or Skype sessions or phone bridges. The idea is that our courses now really focus you on how to work with that. Open source has now become a major, major player in how we design our web pages. So we talk a little bit about that. And now, as I said, this is all user experience geared, because the user has so many more options. There was a time when every time a website was registered with ICANN, they would send out an email every week to say, here are all of the new domains. That would be an impossible task today. And because there are so many websites available, users have the option of hitting that back button if we cannot capture them as soon as they get to our home page. This in and of itself leads to my favorite part of web design, the iterative process. No sooner does a page go live or a website go live than you think of at least 15 things that you could have or should have done. And as you begin to get feedback from your visitors, we begin to go in and we can hone that experience and really use laser-like precision to provide the best possible experience. One of the major changes, as we all know now, is the need for responsive design. So many of us have left behind our desktop, our desktop computers in favor of being mobile. Whether we're using our laptops, our tablets, or a smartphone, everyone is now jumping online to perform some task, whether it's checking for directions, your bank balance, or ordering products online. I want to be able to do that while I'm sitting with my smartphone in a parking lot, while I remember that, oops, I forgot to order that dog food. So having our designs now that will work across multiple platforms is really the crux of what user interface design is all about. Along with making the pages readable, we also have to now be concerned with how are we going to get people to move around them. So, keeping all of that in mind, let's take a look at some of the reasons why it's so important to really understand what user interface design is all about. Experts have now been telling us that there are multiple skill sets that are now considered key and important. Number one is going to be communication. Because of the collaborative nature of creating websites in today's world, being able to speak to your media specialist, your programmer, the person who deals with your database, the person who creates the interesting and engaging graphics, all of those come back down to being able to communicate needs, communicate changes, and be open in accepting ideas. The web now has very, very few limits in terms of creativity. You know, you no longer just go to a page and read everything. People want to click on something. They want to have a video pop up. They want a podcast to happen. They want something that will make this more interesting for them. And that goes to knowing how to use coding and understanding how all of that fits together.
Thank you, Zipporah. It's so important that we understand how multiple individuals and multiple departments in many aspects are going to be worked together to provide a good website. So let's talk a little bit about CIW's approach to user interface design. When we create a new certification program, we always start with exam objectives. We always look at what is needed in this space, what is needed for individuals to know so that they can go and do those jobs, and what job does our program work to. And so what we do is we assemble a number of individuals, and we put together these objectives to help us define what this part of the CIW pathway is all about. So there's a number of things that we talk about that are important for User Interface Designer, and I'm not reading all of these. We'll leave those up here for a little bit, and you can look at them later. There's a lot of depth in each one of these. As we think about color schemes and tones, we always have to think about, well, what about color blindness?
Right, and cultural associations with those colors.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
What type of what diversity do you put up on your website as far as images and graphics of people?
Absolutely.
A number of those things are very important. One of the things, as Zipporah talked about, is create responsive design. I can't tell you how important this is, because as we've gone through and worked with some subject matter experts, it's kind of interesting, because what we found as we were talking with some of these folks is that there's many that still, I'm going to develop for the web, for the desktop,
right,
and then as an afterthought think about, oh, maybe someone wants to see this on the phone because someone's called in and complained. And so as we go through this process, we can no longer think of, I'm going to build for a desktop environment and then maybe later figure out how it's going to work on an iPad or an iPhone or your Samsung Galaxy or whatever it might be. We can no longer do that. Also, we know that the search engines are also being very selective in how they're going to rank you. And Google has come out, I think it's been almost a year now, where they give preference to those that have mobile capabilities built into their sites and responsiveness. And if you don't, you will never be near the top, ever anymore. And so these things are extremely important as we work through this. And as we talked about earlier, it's also very important to have an iterative process as we work through this. So maintaining our sites, testing our sites, and all of those things become extremely important. And what is the appropriate way to go about doing it? There's all kinds of ways that you can build a website, and there's certain methodologies that we really need to understand before we decide what works best in our particular company environment in which we work. So understanding, again, how to problem solve and how to identify where issues are, and then being able to go into whether it's into the code or do I need to do something with the images a little bit more, those become very important. So just one more plug for vendor neutrality, because there's lots of applications that you could use. The focus of what we do is the nuts and bolts under the hood, not so much which application you use. It's more important to understand how to get someplace and why you want to get there than what vehicle am I going in.
Absolutely.
And so as we think about that and as we go through that, you'll be able to see how this course and this certification program will benefit you in the long run. And so let's talk about more of the specific topics within this certification program.
Thanks, Todd. I keep saying that communication is a key factor here. One thing about user interface design that really sets it apart from some of the other CIW courses is the emphasis throughout this entire course is not on coding. By the time you get to this course, we have made the leap of faith that you are at least comfortable in coding in HTML, using CSS, and applying some JavaScript. That doesn't mean that you have to be an expert in it, but you certainly do need to understand what is capable within those three very important technology skill sets. So user interface design begins really with sitting down with the client and understanding what are their needs. What is it that your client wants to see in that website? And from that information and doing a really intensive, what I like to refer to as the front-end needs analysis, we can start to understand how the evolution of the web and current trends are going to impact your decisions. It will help to guide the kinds of people that you need to gather together for your team and who can manage that project, working in collaboration. And one of the goals of this course is to help you create your own portfolio that you can use moving forward in conjunction with your own business plan. Go ahead.
There we go.
There we go. So we talk about this as being a user-centered web design process. And what this is we are now going to be guided not so much on what content that we're putting up, while that's very important, but how is it being served up to the user on that website. What are, as Todd mentions, the cultural considerations, the diversity. If I want to sell a particular product that might have an ethnic slant, I want to make sure that not only am I being comfortable within what the needs are for that particular ethnic community, but I'm not necessarily isolating the rest of the known world. And that's always a really interesting place. We want to talk about the website being intuitive. Dr. Jacob Nielsen, who is one of the gurus on web usability, has stated over and over again that when your user lands on your homepage, you are in essence teaching them how to use your website. So understanding that from page one, whether it's on a desktop or a tablet or a smartphone, is going to impact how people navigate through. And of course, in today's world, because technology has helped to bridge the gap from isolation with people within our population that face various physical challenges, having our sites accessible and compliant so that anyone can use it is very important. That kind of bridges us right into the visual design principle. We want to work with our branding. Certainly if I land on a page and I'm looking for a soft drink and it's got a red, white, and blue background, I'm not expecting to see something from Coca-Cola. I'm expecting that to be Pepsi. And understanding how those branding issues fall in with your visual design is really important. People have a visceral reaction as soon as they get to a home page. Either they like it or they don't. And it doesn't necessarily have to follow logic, rhyme, or reason. It just simply is the way it is. And hand in glove with that are the legalities concerned here. You can't just go up to your competitor's website and download all of their images and put them into your own website and expect to get away with that. That would be a breach of copyright. So we do talk a little bit about some of the legal guidelines that you need to be aware of as you go through these courses. So, you know, we talk about things that are registered, trademarked, and copywritten, but there's more to it than just that, and we do talk a little bit about the ethics that are involved in how you apply all of these things to your site.
Yeah, these are very important topics to go through. Legal issues are always going to be an interesting discussion in anything that we do, legal and ethics. We touch on these a little bit. We can't exhaust all of the discussion on legal and ethical issues when you're dealing with website or any other technologies that we deal with. So we do make them. You need to realize that they are very, very vital in the design process.
They're not only vital, they're also constantly changing. Internet law is one of the emergent fields and specializations within our legal fields, and understanding what you can and cannot do legally as opposed to morally or ethically,
right,
always an interesting place to live in. But let's talk a little bit about the importance of the physical look and feel of that site. So as I mentioned, we have this visceral reaction to color. We actually have a reaction to the typography. If we see a font that's too frou-frou, we may not take the site as seriously, but if we see something that's all done in, say, Courier, we may start having flashbacks, those of us that are old enough, to our typewriters. And there may be times when that's absolutely appropriate for your site, and there may be times when that kind of typography is offsetting.
Yeah, if you're trying to sell vintage IBM Selectrics.
Absolutely. Go ahead with your Courier and your Pica. But if you're trying to sell the latest version of Fallout, that's probably a really bad choice.
Should avoid those, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We talk a lot about using wireframing and creating mock-ups. it is much simpler for a designer to draw either with paper and pen or using some sort of software application to create a mock-up or a wireframe of what that web page will look like long before the code is ever applied. And this is where that balance comes in place. Knowing what you can do with the code can help you to make better design decisions. And then, of course, going back once again to that all-important responsive design. Am I going to design with my smartphone in mind first and then expand out on the design with larger and larger pieces of real estate on my screen? Or am I going to start with my desktop and then try to figure out how to distill that down to a smartphone? You know, it's interesting, Todd, when we first came up with responsive design several years ago and I looked at a website on a smartphone, my initial reaction was, wow, that's HTML 3.2. We've gone backwards in time. We've since caught up with ourselves, and now there are much more creative things that we can do, but it was very frustrating to have to keep pinching and unpinching and scrolling around just to read the introduction to the site.
Yeah, I think those are very important, the mock-ups, because a picture speaks 1,000 words, and as you may not be the programmer that is responsible for this. Exactly. You may be just the designer in putting the mock-ups together, and that mock-up will really help someone that's got to figure out how to do it in code, really what they can do and can see the transition between your phone and a desktop.
Exactly.
And build that transition in. And
so we talk a lot here, there we go, how we're going to create these websites. On our slide we say measure twice, cut once, but there's the 6 Ps. Prior proper planning prevents poor performance. And this is such an important concept. There's a maximum web design for every hour we spend in doing our front-end needs analysis, in our mock-ups, in really honing in with the client, what exactly are we trying to do on this website? And I know this can be tedious because I've been doing it for years. In the end, every hour we spend doing that probably saves us on average 5 to 10 hours of hair pulling and teeth gnashing when we realize, oh, you didn't really want that to roll over there and do this. Oops. And now you have to go back and change all of that code. So understanding the theory of what can be done, what is practical, and what is going to create an inviting and engaging user environment really become the watchwords of this entire course.
Yeah, I really like that measure twice, cut once.
Yes.
I learned that as a young child with different types of windows.
I would imagine you could get a lot of leaks if you're not careful with that. Exactly. And of course the navigation. As I said, Dr. Nielsen points out that we are teaching our visitors how to navigate. Vincent Flanders talks about mystery meat navigation, where there are these amorphous icons, but they don't really have any clear connection to their purpose. So we want to make sure that the positioning of everything is intuitive, that it's going to be followed through. And we have 2 examples here. Clearly, the one on the lower left would be a lot harder to figure out where you want to go than a quadrant that takes you to various sections within the website.
How quickly can your customers navigate your site is an important thing.
Rule of 3 clicks. We should be able to be where we want to be within approximately 3 clicks. Okay. And of course, you know, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about creating our prototypes, having focus groups come in, check those websites, give them specific tasks to perform, get their feedback. And this is really where the ego gets left at the door and we listen to the needs of our users. The website may be designed for our company to make money at the end, but if we don't serve our customers properly, they're not coming back. And of course, optimizing. It's been said that people will wait a whopping 2 seconds for a page to render out. Juxtapose that with an entire society that stands in front of a microwave impatiently telling it to hurry up.
Yeah.
So we really want to make sure everything is optimized, and that as we're constructing with the idea of earlier pages must render quickly. The deeper you go in the site, the more patient people will become, because that click becomes that tacit contract of, yes, I need this, I will wait a moment or two longer.
Well, and I'm interested in what is coming.
Exactly.
I'm more involved. I'm more committed into what I'm trying to find out, whether it's information or whether it's product.
Exactly.
I'm more committed to this.
It's kind of like being in a restaurant. If your appetizers come out quickly, you don't mind if the main course takes a little bit longer.
Exactly.
Because you already have something to nibble on.
Exactly.
It's an iterative process. We cannot say that enough. In order to have a successful website, you must have these 4 things in place. We must do extensive testing. Make sure that everything works as expected. Maintenance becomes a very important thing. Sometimes if you're using an ISP and they do something with their servers, your page may inadvertently get left behind. And by checking on your site on a regular basis to make sure all of your links are working, this is a very important piece of it. Search engine optimization. Todd made a comment about Google earlier in our presentation. Nobody clicks beyond the 2nd or 3rd page in a Google search. If you haven't found it within the first few pages, usually you refine your search points rather than continuously dig deeper and deeper. So knowing how to use search engine optimization to help your website come up higher in the ratings is very important. And we do that through a very clear understanding of what metadata is and probably more importantly, what it is not.
Right. Yeah, these are very important tasks that we need to take care of and continually keep at the forefront of our minds. I know a lot of times we think, well, I've completed that course or that lesson or whatever it is, and I don't need to think about that again. But these are things that recur consistently.
Yes.
The website is always changing. Our products might always be changing. There's new information that needs to be disseminated to our users. And as we look at these types of things, the more familiar we are with the things that go on, the better this will help us when we get into some of those other programs, like let's talk about data analysts for a minute.
Exactly.
What are we going to do with the data from our website? So these things really work together on helping us produce that quality website that's going to drive a lot of traffic and bring a lot of customers.
Exactly. As your company grows, your SEO is going to change, your metadata must change, and you have to stay current. If you have a new initiative coming out, you're going to want to change some of that to help those ratings on those search engines.
Yeah, and also understanding where the world is going. Do we spend all this time in creating a website to keep on that bleeding edge of what's the latest and greatest on a website, which may be the latest and greatest today, but tomorrow it's forgotten.
Exactly.
So we need to watch those trends and determine what is appropriate for your organization. I think those are very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the CIW course materials. We've talked about the technology. We've talked about the content that's in there. But how do we really deliver, and how do we make this interesting for individuals? We have in this course, as we've gone through, 9 lessons. As we talked about the previous slides and the previous technology and topics, those were the 9 lessons. We try to take a fun approach to this. We have, while maintaining standards, pedagogy, all of those types of things that Zipporah lives for. But we have a standard, so as you look at any CIW course, you're going to see the same features so that your students and you as instructors are going through, they see standard things. They don't have to learn how is this book put together again. So we start with the lesson objectives. What are the things that we're going to focus on for this lesson? There's a short pre-assessment at the beginning just to get an idea of what do I understand so far? What do I need to focus on because I don't understand certain things? Then there's the content, explaining the technology, giving you opportunities to see examples out on the web of good design
and questionable design.
Not so good design, exactly. And many times that is in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly.
I mean, depending upon who your audience is, you know, bright reds and greens might be really good. But they may not be.
Elves, yeah.
Exactly. And so as we look at that, that's what the content is all about. And going back to the second point of what I said earlier about we really want you as an individual to know how to do this work. We have hands-on labs, and they're designed to give you experience in that particular topic. They're also designed to give you an opportunity to build and expand maybe your portfolio, because as you go through this, you are building a website, and you're going through all of these experience and understanding. You're going to create mock-ups and those types of things.
And you'll have an opportunity to create things in various formats, because you may think you don't want to do it one way until you try it.
Exactly.
Kind of like Brussels sprouts and kids.
Exactly. Exactly. I still don't want to try those, but it's good. So,
use enough bacon, everything
tastes good. So as we look at these, as we look at this, then at the end of each lesson we have some review questions, and these are typically an open-ended question. It's not a pick one of the four, give me a yes or no, is it true or false. We want you to think about what is there, so that you have an opportunity to put down, to type out, to write out, whatever, what you learned in that lesson. So those are very important. Then there are optional activities and labs as we go through this. And then there's case studies. Now, when I was in school, I hated case studies. Case studies were dry and boring, and I really didn't want to spend much time with them. We try to have a little bit of fun with our case studies. But we try to bring things in that may not necessarily be technology. So if you look at this case study, you'll be able to see the green section here on the right. It says, the lifeguard who couldn't swim. Now, you'll have, of course, to understand how that has anything to do with user interface design, but we try to have some fun with those to give you an idea of how technology can be used in a variety of different ways.
You know, Todd, we talk about how in user interface design we want this to be user-centered, and here we're demonstrating in our pedagogy that we are applying the same kinds of concepts. So by having open-ended questions, we're actually offering our students a chance to reflect on what they've been learning. Using these case studies takes it out of the realm of just dry answers back and forth, but really starts to underscore the importance of that critical thinking.
Exactly.
So it really mirrors everything that we're trying to accomplish through our content by doing that through the actual experience in the course.
Right. Those case studies are very important to be able to think through kind of outside of the box. One other thing that we've kind of expanded a little bit in the User Interface Designer course is all of our courses have had application projects.
Right.
And they've been all at the end of the lesson, and they're very brief in what they have been. The thing that I've noticed in both User Interface Designer and in the Data Analyst course that we're trying to complete is those application projects have expanded in their content a little bit, in opportunities to really apply what you're learning from that course. And that's one of the things that I've enjoyed as we've gone through these courses. Some other things that we still have and will continue to have various online resources, video clips that help reinforce what is going on in the lesson, interactive exercises. These will be, true-false items, matching items, crossword puzzles, various things, and we continue to expand how those are being delivered. In the past, they've been a lot of, JavaScript coding, and that brings in some fun things to do as you apply that to various learning management systems, applying some SCORM opportunities. There's a lot of neat things that we have in here. Any of the lab files that you would need as you develop and go through the labs, those are available through CIW Online, and then additional supplemental materials, slide presentations, and that type of thing for the instructors. Obviously, the answers are going to be available there as opposed to in the course material. Those types of things are the supplemental materials. And so we try to cover all of the bases and all of the things that you will need as you move through the curriculum. We also have the fun part for some, the assessment portion of it. This is what teachers want to know. This is, how are my students doing? I need to have some measurable result from these students. So we have a lot of them. There are a lot of opportunities to assess the student or assess yourself from the curriculum, but we also have on CIW Online online pre-assessment that you can go through that simulates what the certification exam would be. We have course mastery so that you as an individual or students can quickly or as often as you want go back through and focus on that lesson and just review and review and review. And then there's obviously the lesson quiz at the end of each lesson.
Right.
You got to have a score, you got to have a grade, and be able to report that. Then as we get to the end of the course, there's practice exams. And this is where we really want to prep the student for that certification exam. We want to help alleviate some of the test anxiety that they might have. And so these practice exams do simulate that high-stakes environment. Delivering a question, similar style of question, but these practice exams are not the questions that are on the certification exam.
And the fact that the student can take this as often as they'd like so that they become more and more comfortable within that. But Todd, what happens if I'm doing consistently well, but it seems like just one or two types of questions constantly stump me on those practice exams? That's
a good question. We do have focusing in on objectives. You can look at, if you see in a practice exam that you don't, there's just one thing that's just messing, you can go in and look at those specific objectives, look at those questions, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can have a review opportunity where you answer a question, then see the answer, and you can get that remediation, instant remediation. Or you can go in and take a quiz and say, I just really want to test out this specific objective. We do have that available to us. So those are the features and functions of the curriculum in helping you to prepare for the exam. And so now I know that everybody's asking, what about the exam? How is this going to...
How are we going to do that exam?
How do I take it? So here it is. It will be available in April 2016. I know our team is pushing really hard and making sure that we have this taken care of in that period of time. It will be a proctored exam. We will have a variety of test locations that you can go and sit this exam. Currently, because it's not finalized, we're approximating that it will be about 65 minutes with approximately 50 questions, give or take a little bit in those areas. We'll nail that down by April when we release it. They will all be multiple choice questions. A single answer response is our standard, and we have the various platforms in which you can take it. We have, for those that have in-classroom testing with our CTC, we are adding a new provider with PSI. There's been some acquisitions that PSI has done over this last year, and that will bring to CIW certifications a video or online proctoring opportunity for our students. So we have a lot of students that aren't sitting in a classroom and may not have an opportunity to drive 2 or 3 or 4 hours to the nearest center, to the nearest city, and to go to a view center.
Exactly.
They want to take it there. And the nice thing about that video proctoring is you can take this in the comfort of your home, again helping you eliminate some of that test anxiety. So those are some important things. So that will begin with the User Interface Designer course, but that will also be available for all of our CIW exams, and probably in a similar time frame. We've been working hard to bring various opportunities to our students. And finally, we need
so I've got my certification. Now, what do I do with it?
and how do I get to this point? So as we look at the various certifications, we do want to make sure that you know that this is real world versus theoretical. We try to really bring in what is out there currently and what you need to do. To be able to move through and really take this, there's a couple different ways that you can go. You can, if you've already have a lot of this experience, you can come in and just do the standalone User Interface Designer course. You can come in and take that certification and just go there. If you're starting out, we have a good pathway for you. But going back to that slide earlier that talked about those job roles, this will help you get into web design opportunities, web development, digital marketing opportunities, multimedia, various things, various job roles that are out there. And really, you know, your imagination and your creativity is the limit on where this can take you. And that ends our webinar for today, but we want to find out if there are any questions that are out there. Lisa.
Hi, Todd. We're just starting to get a few questions in. We did have one question asking if there's going to be a study kit available. I assume they're referring to our self-study kit. I believe that comes shortly after the main courseware is released. Is that correct?
Yes, it will come very shortly after that's available. So probably within the next month, we'll have that all available.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. I don't see too many other questions, but if you do have a question for us, if you can locate your questions panel in your GoToWebinar session, you can post your questions there. I do want to remind everyone that, yes, we are recording this webinar. We will post the recording on our website within, hopefully later on this afternoon, maybe tomorrow, definitely within a few days. I believe we'll also have a PDF of our slides available on our website as well. I see that Anna Werman is asking how much is the course we're going to be available for. I believe that's going to be, pricing is going to be very regional based on the nature of your organization and where you're located. But do you have a base price at all yet, Todd?
I would suggest you contact a sales representative or customer service. They'll be able to help you with those. It does depend upon your organization, whether you're purchasing for a school, for a university, for self-study. There's a variety of pricing models there. But it will not be too dissimilar from our other CIW programs. This is definitely a higher level and more advanced program than maybe Internet Business Associate. So there are some slight differences in where we're at. But we try to keep it reasonable. Same thing with the certification exam. The certification exam retail price on that is $150, similar to our other programs. And, you know, there are a variety of price points in there based upon volumes and that type of thing.
Okay. All right. Sharon Burlingame was asking if there was an opportunity to take the class's test, whether she wants to adopt. We do make evaluation copies of our curriculum available. You can obtain those through your account manager. If you contact our customer service team, they can connect you with the account manager for your geographic region.
Yeah, and those should be available by next week.
Okay, excellent. All right, Stephanie Dunmore is asking if there's going to be any beta testing for taking the exam for free. Unfortunately, we do not have a plan to do a beta test on the High-6 exam for this one. We're on kind of a time crunch on this one, so a beta testing cycle is not really in the plan at this point in time, unfortunately, Stephanie. If you're working with an educational institution who happens to be one of our CTCs, you might be able to take the exam for a relatively low cost. I would check with your instructors there or check with your account manager to determine whether or not you're a CTC and who your proctor is. Daniel Spencer is asking if the estimated price is expected to be within the $150 price range.
For the certification exam, yes. For the curriculum, yeah.
Okay.
I think it'll be comparable to the HTML5.
Very similar.
Very similar to that.
All right. Okay. And Dee Pinkston is asking when the next certification of the series is, and when do you think that will be released?
Well, Dee can come down the hall and we can talk about that. No, actually, the next... Sorry, Dee. No, actually, the next certification is data analyst. and that will also be available in April. That is a new course. That is a new exam as well. That on our initial plan, that was going to be the last course that we were going to do, but we've had a lot of requests for that, and so we moved that up into the up in the development schedule. And part of that is because that is a very interesting program. Really what that does is, again, it's taking a similar approach that we did with user interface design. You're going to know certain things already. And so data analyst is very much an applied opportunity, an applied curriculum. And so there's not really anything like that out there that brings those pieces together. You know, should already know things like SQL queries and database management and those types of things for that course. But then how do you get all of that data and compare it when you're getting some from a structured database environment and much of it from an unstructured environment like you would get from a social media type of source? And how do you make reasonable, keeping in mind the legal and ethical issues of you're going to present this data to, you know, upper management, and they're going to make business decisions based upon what you're getting. But how do you bring all of that together from so many various sources and actually make sense of it all? So that's really what that course is about. And so that will be our next webinar, probably sometime next month. I don't have a date for that yet, but sometime next month as we talk about that and as we release that the beginning of April. So you will see a number of things coming out over the next several months. There might be a little bit of time between, you know, user interface designer and data analyst, but we do have currently developing the social media strategist certification program, and behind that we will have the mobile application developer program, and multimedia will shortly follow that. And then with finalizing with the e-commerce specialist program there, all of those should be available before fall of next year. So there's a lot that we're doing, so please stay tuned. Much more to come in the coming months as I, you know, drive relentlessly a development team. And with a smile, of course. Always.
Right. Always.
But thank you for the question.
Yes.
Any more?
And, there was somebody asking if they could still do the advanced HTML5 and CSS3 course. Of course you can still do the course. Although we release our courses in a certain order, you're certainly not required to take them in that particular order. You're welcome to do CIW courses in whatever order makes sense to you and your personal needs. So.
Yeah. This will not in any way replace the HTML5 course. I would very much recommend you take it before you take the user interface design course, because we don't teach HTML5 and CSS in this. We expect you to know that as you go through the labs and apply the processes that we're really teaching you in this course.
Right. Okay, that seems to have taken care of most of our questions here in our questions panel. I thank everyone for your participation today. It's been very fascinating. It does look like we are almost up on the hour for our session, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Todd and Zipporah, thank you very much for your participation and your very valuable information. I appreciate everyone's attendance, and we thank you all for joining us today. Todd?
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you coming and joining in with us this last hour. It's been a lot of fun for us. It's been a lot of hard work up to this point, and we're excited for you to be able to get these courses and prepare yourselves and your students for careers that will help continue to drive technology forward. Thank you.
Yep. And I just want to say thank you as well for your attendance and your attentiveness. Should you have any further questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to us. If you are joining us and you are a faculty member and are wondering how to position this within your own class or how to approach this in the classroom with classroom management techniques, by all means, please feel free to reach out to me and we can have a fun one-on-one conversation about how to make this course even more fun than